It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today it will be all about the Houston Texans as we start to preview the upcoming 2021 NFL season. We'll take a look at some training camp quick hits, some reasons for optimism, as well as some causes for concern, the road to the Super Bowl for the Houston Texans, and we'll take a look at the positional breakdown on both sides of the ball. But first, let's take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the Texans season as we go into our 4-minute offense. The Deshaun Watson situation hangs over the Texans franchise like a black cloud. The 3-time Pro Bowl franchise QB made it publicly clear that he didn't want to play for the franchise anymore and has requested his release or trade. Then, on top of all of that, the off-the-field allegations surrounding him makes this entire thing one big mess. With no resolution in sight, the team has to shoulder on without their best quarterback in franchise history, and this entire situation is sad all the way around. There are no winners at all, and we'll see how this will affect the Texans season and franchise moving forward. Now, in the midst of all of the Watson news, the Houston Texans will be breaking in a new GM and head coach this season. Nick Caserio, the longtime New England Patriot exec, will take over the reins in Houston, hoping to provide some stability and a consistent direction within the franchise. His first head coaching hire is David Culley, the longtime NFL assistant, who is a well-respected coach amongst his peers. Culley has worked with some talented players at QB and was hoping to do so with Deshaun Watson, but that unfortunately will never happen. And because of how their tenure has started, they will have their hands full to make do out of a murky situation. Now, on the field, the Texans will be looking toward a lot of young players to step up and step into pivotal roles. Gone are your J.J. Watts, your Deshaun Watsons, your DeAndre Hopkins, and Will Fullers of the world. And now they will look toward guys like Charles Omenihu and a lot of 2021 draft picks to help soften the blow and ease the roster transition. There are two ways to look at this. One, it's a fun time in Houston because change can bring excitement, or it's going to be a miserable time because the process isn't as swift as one may want it or hope it should be moving forward. Speaking to that, the Texans were extremely busy in free agency. They made approximately 70 transactions since the end of the 2020 season. That's a lot of roster tinkering and turnover. Guys like quarterback Tyrod Taylor and wide receiver Andre Roberts, defensive tackle Malik Collins, and Christian Kirksey, the linebacker, are expected to step into critical roles on both sides of the ball and on special teams. The hope is that getting guys that either have positional upside or something to prove will help this team mitigate through what figures to be an up and down season. Without Deshaun Watson, this team enters the season with a huge question mark at quarterback. However, the luxury of having a well-traveled veteran in Tyrod Taylor could help bring some stability to the situation. He's also a player that has a lot to prove, considering how his tenure ended in both Buffalo and in Los Angeles as well with the Cleveland Browns. So this could be a scenario like it was in Buffalo, where he steps into a questionable situation, helps keep the offense afloat, and puts them in position to win games. I'm rooting for him because he's a good dude, genuine guy that really wants to win. And they also signed Jeff Driscoll as a veteran backup and drafted David Mills in the 3rd round out of Stanford, giving them a young quarterback to work with, groom, and develop for the future. The backfield for the Houston Texans is actually pretty solid if you ask me. David Johnson and Mark Ingram, a free agent signee, gives them 2 stable veterans that can carry the ball, and 2 other free agent signees in Philip Lindsay that came over from the Denver Broncos and Rex Burkhead from the New England Patriots are speedy slashers that don't really need volume to make an impact on the game. So I would expect the rotation to be heavy here with Johnson and Ingram and Lindsay all being former feature backs and proving that they can handle an extended workload. So I like the backfield here for the Houston Texans. Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb returned for their second season in Houston. Now, Cooks led the team in receiving yards last year with over 1,100 and also 6 touchdowns, while Cobb finished 3rd in receiving yards with just under 450. Now, there's a huge opportunity for a bevy of young talented options to help make up the difference here. It's mainly why they traded up to draft Nico Collins out of Michigan in the 3rd round this past April. He opted out of the 2020 season but was able to have a stellar week down at the Reese's Senior Bowl back in January. And I'm a big fan of Isaiah Coulter, last year's 5th round pick out of Rhode Island. He figures to make a play up the depth chart and on the field more so this season. Houston hopes Kiki Cutie can stay healthy enough to make an impact. Ability isn't his biggest issue, it never was. It's his availability that's questionable. And it was an influx of free agents this offseason as the team brought in Andre Roberts, mainly to help out with special teams, but Chris Conley, Chris Moore, Alex Erickson, and Dante Moncrief. Tight end has a little bit more stability, in my opinion, with Jordan Akins, who finished 4th on the team in receptions and yards. He's someone that has slowly blossomed into a reliable target, and drafting Brevin Jordan out of Miami was one of my favorite moves of the draft. He's an H-back type that can get down the seam and is also dangerous after the catch. Teaming him up with free agent signee Pharaoh Brown and Anthony Auclair helps round out this unit. This group has potential to be a stable force on the offensive side of the ball. In my opinion, they are strong at tackle with Laramie Tunzel and third-year player Titus Howard. The questions and potential are more so on the interior offensive line with incoming players Justin Britt and Marcus Cannon. If Britt is fully healthy from his knee injury, then he's going to star at center or guard, and Cannon gives them the ability to play guard or tackle. Putting him right next to Howard just helps strengthen the right side as a whole. It's Max Sharping on the other side at left guard that has to find his form from 2 seasons ago as he's coming off a rough 2020. As a rookie in 2019, he played well, so it's in him to do so, but he definitely needs a bounce back year. Just in case he's inconsistent, look for free agent signee Lane Taylor to step in and give them a veteran presence there. Cole Turner, Roderick Johnson, and Charlie Heck, the second-year player, provides good depth, and they brought in Justin McCray as well to do that also. But keep an eye out for undrafted rookie free agent Ryan McCollum out of Texas A&M. He has tremendous talent and could work himself into that 2 deep because he can play guard or center before training camp is done with. There's no more J.J. Watt up front. That leaves some gigantic shoes to fill amongst this defensive line group. Defensive end Charles Omenihu is primed for a breakout season as he's slowly gotten better each year, and moving to more of a 4-3 defense this season puts a lot of emphasis on the interior defensive line to generate quick pressure. Second-year player Ross Blacklock out of TCU and free agent signee Malik Collins will be expected to provide just that. Blacklock, like Omenihu, is primed for a breakout season in my opinion, as he could thrive in this new defense. Now, opposite of Omenihu will be very interesting, as Shaq Lawson could be in position to start as he brings good pass rush ability as well. And another influx of free agent signees are expected to provide good depth. And I'm intrigued by DeMarcus Walker, who's one of those free agents who's coming over from the Denver Broncos. He and fellow free agent signee Jaleel Johnson are quick and disruptive off the ball, but keep an eye out for Vincent Taylor also, who is more of a run stuffer than the other two. Zach Cunningham is their best linebacker. He led the team in tackles last season with 164. 106 of those were solo stops, which is just impressive. Expect him to continue his excellence this season for the Texans. Outside of him is where there are some questions and or some opportunities for players to step up. One guy in particular who I'm excited to see is rookie Garrett Wallow out of TCU. He was my #1 inside linebacker in this draft class, and the former safety turned linebacker gives them an athletic presence at the second level with top-tier instincts. So don't be surprised if he ends up starting. Veteran Christian Kirksey was signed this offseason and gives them capable play. He's a pro's pro and one of the solid guys that you'll find in the NFL. Whitney Merciless and Jordan Jenkins will bring a bit more twitchiness off the edge and will jockey for the other outside linebacker starting spot within his defense. Camus Grugier-Hill and Kevin Pierre-Louis, they actually upgrade the athleticism within the second level. So there's some opportunities here for this group to really stand out. Talent isn't a question on the back end. It's more about the consistency. Signing Desmond King helps him at nickel and also in the return game. I've always been a fan of his game and his ability. With starting cornerback Bradley Roby returning to form, it puts the focus on both Vernon Hargraves, who needs a bounce back year, and free agent signee Terrence Mitchell to hold it down on the other side. I would expect John Reed to get more opportunities as well, although reps could be limited by King's arrival. Lonnie Johnson moves over to safety, giving them a bit more range and athleticism on the back end back there with Justin Reed, who is also looking for a bounce back season, and Johnson's versatility should help him be a bit more versatile on the back end as free agent signee Terrence Brooks gives them the ability to get 3 safeties out there on the field at the same time while still being sound in coverage. And there's solid depth potentially here with both Eric Murray and Tavare Thomas. Both guys can help you out on the back end and just strengthening the unit, but it's all about consistency with this group. A reason for optimism for the Houston Texans, to be completely honest, they have some work-withable pieces in place. We talked about Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks. We talked about the backfield and how talented they are in the secondary with some pieces. And you talk about Zach Cunningham and the emergence of Charles Omenihu. There's a lot to work with here. The offensive line has 2 good tackles. So if they can get it all together for a full season, they could surprise some people. When you consider the fact that they have great coaches in place, you can also be optimistic about the Houston Texans. David Culley himself is a very good longtime football coach. He brought in a very top-tier assistant coach in Lovie Smith, and we know what Lovie can do with those defenses. And Pep Hamilton was stellar last year. Underrated impact he had on Justin Herbert and also Tyrod Taylor. So you got good coaches in place with a work-withable, peaceable roster. Yes, you can be optimistic about these Houston Texans. A cause for concern would be if the quarterback play is average to below average. They need it to be average to good. They can't hang right there at the Mendoza line. They have to be a little bit above that in order to help this team kind of push forward through this transition. And if they're snake bitten by inconsistency again, i.e. in the secondary, talent late in secondary, but they have to play consistent. Up front, offensive line has talent there, but they got to play consistent. If they're bitten by that inconsistency bug once again, it could be a pretty down year in 2021. Some training camp quick hits, and we'll look at a camp surprise on both sides of the ball. Isaiah Coulter, I believe, will surprise some in training camp and make his way into the conversation to be one of the starters at wide receiver. On the defensive side of the football, you look at Derek Rivers. Yes, he's been in the league for quite some time, but he's been injured a lot of it. If he's healthy and out there, which should be the case in training camp, you'll see the athleticism, the length, the ability to get to the quarterback, and he could surprise and be one of those sneaky situational edge rushers on his defense. Rookie impact player on offense, I'm going with Nico Collins. I think his game is underrated. You saw him have a really good week at the Senior Bowl, coming off of a solid career, a solid season in 2019 at Michigan. I think he's someone that's going to help have an impact in the passing game. And Garrett Wallow, I think he's going to fly past the depth chart and end up starting a lot of games because of his athleticism, his instincts, and his ability to consistently make plays on the ball. Looking at some X factors on offense, Max Sharping, I think if he can revert back to what we saw from him as a rookie in 2019, he helps stabilizes the offense because, again, they're solid at tackle. They got good veterans to come in at center and guard. If he can hold his own on the left side, things will be fine. And Ross Blacklock being that interior pressure presence in this new 4-3 defense, if he can have a breakout second season with the Texans, this defense could surprise some folks. And breakout players on offense, Titus Howard, I think, is ready to step into that upper echelon of tackles that we talk about. There's going to be someone that's on the verge of a Pro Bowl berth, I think, this season with his play. And defensively, I've been talking about him all throughout the show. Charles Omenihu, is someone that has played well every year. I think this season we'll see that breakthrough, that breakout that'll help him catapult himself into double-digit sack category. The road to the Super Bowl for the Texans goes as follows. That defense has to improve significantly. That was the reason why they were 4-12 last year. That defense couldn't stop anybody. If they can get to 16th, maybe 15th in the league, they could surprise some folks and be flirting with the playoff berth. And if the quarterbacks can drive the bus, not try to be the hero, not lose some games, but stay stable, make some plays here or there, drive this bus, lean on that run game, and play action passes, they could have some success. And if the depth strengthens on both sides of the roster, the Texans, in my opinion, could get into the playoffs, and who knows what could happen. They could end up in LA. I have Houston finishing 4th in the AFC South. Just far too many new pieces on a roster on both sides of the ball. In a tumultuous, so to speak, offseason without your franchise quarterback, so you're breaking in a new quarterback there. I just think there's too many moving parts for them to be taken ahead of any other team in the AFC South. They'll be competitive. We'll see a 6 or 7 game type winning season from from the Houston Texans. But as far as them being competitive to challenge for the division crown or the playoffs in 2021, I don't think so. I think we look more to 2022 for them to be in that conversation. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. That's where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast.
It's tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.